Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. This episode is brought to you by our friends at North Bay Toyota over on McEwen.
It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota. Attention truck lovers. Have you been Tundra struck? The powerful and dependable Toyota Tundra is the new definition of grit. Ask us about amazing lease deals on a 2025 Tundra Double Cap SR 4-wheel drive and experience ingenious levels of capability, technology, and refinement. Or maybe you're an SUV lover? Take advantage of a limited shipment of 2025 RAV4s and discover the perfect blend of style, comfort, and efficiency in a compact SUV that ignites your desire to explore. Right now, get excellent lease deals on the Toyota RAV4 LE all-wheel drive and more. It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota, 640 McEwen, or online at northbaytoyota.com for details.
Dave, haven't seen you in a while. Where you been?
Oh, I've been everywhere, man. Yeah, went ice fishing at Ranger Lake there north of Sioux with my cousin and my boy Dill. So I was unplugged for a full 6 days, which was very nice, very isolating out there in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
And the week before that, I got to do a bit of a video job with an old college buddy of mine, and Norm Dokis out at Dokis First Nation. He runs outdoor education, and so there was Indigenous students at his one of his camps, and that was very interesting, very isolating out there as well.
Yeah. Whereabouts is the camps?
Close to the French River. Have you heard of Lost Bay?
No.
Yeah, well, if you ever get lost.
Yeah.
There it is.
Upper French or Lower French?
Upper
French. Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't heard of it. I love the French. I was just talking to someone recently about that. The French is really interesting in that I bet you majority of people here in North Bay haven't been down the French. And it's like a different world.
It is.
It's so gorgeous. And people come from all over the world. And I don't know if it's still the same, but I remember probably in the 90s, it was the first time I went, and it seemed like it was majority were Americans down there. You saw the American flag flying at most people's camps. But I think maybe that has changed quite a bit. You don't see as many of those American flags. But I think the American, well, maybe because we like the plumbing and the Americans love that. Going up north, there's no electricity, no plumbing, no nothing, right?
I don't know. I've been in a couple camps out in that area. Pretty rustic.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you traveled by boat down
it? Only to the dam.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty well too. Yeah. That's it. That's the French. That's the Upper French. You get to the dam, then below that is the Lower French.
Yeah.
That's it.
I haven't been any further than that. Beautiful. Yeah, it is very beautiful. And there's huge trees compared to over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like it's not the 100-year-old trees for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful to see.
I'm wearing a hat today because I got up this morning and I had no hot water. It was done. It was done. So thank goodness I have North Bay Services, Division of Hydro, right? And so you just call them and they take care of it all, right? All your
What's
stuff.
the hat say? I can't read
it. It says on the lake. So the story of this hat is I went to the boat show this year in Toronto. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I see these hats. I go, oh, I love that color. What color is this? Like a teal or?
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, it looks kind of retro. I go, I really like
50s.
that. Yeah. It's like this really cool color. And I put it on and it's a little bit snug, but it has the things at the back, right? And I'm like, my head isn't that big, but it basically took like all the snaps. Like I only have like one holding it.
So
right?
if you're chewing steak, it's going to just pop.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll pop. But then I'm going, it's sort of, I go, I like the hat. And then I'm home and I have my hands on my head and whatever. And I'm like, oh, is it ripped? I think the hat is ripped. And then I realize I go, no, the hat isn't ripped. That's for the ponytail. When I was buying it from the woman, she could have said that's a woman's hat, but whatever. It doesn't.
I'll turn it around. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Has the ponytail.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a woman's hat.
Well, it's multi-sex.
Yes.
Pansex.
Speaking of multi-sex, that's what our topic is today.
Yeah, it's
North
that's
Bay
an
Pride.
Yeah, North Bay Pride is an important part of North Bay, of course, and some good people involved, but very touchy subject sometimes.
Yeah, so tell me why it's a touchy subject.
Well, multiple reasons. One, whenever you know that there's a sensitivity about something, you have to be a little bit more guarded in how you speak and what words you choose and how how careful you should be about describing your opinion about something. So it puts people on guard a little bit because, one, they don't want to upset another person. Two, there's issues that other people in the world are fighting against, and they're a little bit more, I'd say, more conflict than you'd see in North Bay, right?
You know, in the interview coming up with Jocelyn Green, she's the new executive director for North Bay Pride. I think you did a really good job. This is coming up next with, because you started talking about something, and it's so interesting. You say that I've been sort of afraid to say or ask certain questions, and it wasn't so much because I do it all the time of being like ignorant about a topic. That's why we have these conversations, to have full conversations. It's more about, it's not about offending the other person. It's sometimes I feel that I may say something that people will get very upset and will weaponize that against me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I would think you as a journalist writing something where it could be like, once you put it into print or into digital, then it's there and then it can be taken, which I'm sure has happened in your career. And then, you rubs your nose in it when that's not the intent of what was of being asked or said. I think you did a really nice job when you started talking about that, about the sexualization of youth, how it's being introduced into the school system. And even you could see Jocelyn knows that you need to tiptoe into this a little bit.
Yeah, like there's so much is going on in regards to sexual orientation, trans people, the backlash in the States right now, the anti-woke, and I've been watching it for the last 10 years, kind of push and pull, right? And it's divided people, and it's made people sort of take, hard positions on things. And others like myself, the pronoun thing, right? Mm-hmm. Compelled speech.
So you're right. You touched on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that. I have zero problem if someone wants to identify what their pronouns are. I have no problem, indicating what their pronouns are. I have zero problem with that. But when it's compelled speech, when by law I have to do it, then it gets weird. Mm-hmm. Like it's a weird thing.
Yeah, and that's the topic Jordan Peterson, made his hay on.
That's right. That's where he put his flag in the sand.
Yeah,
right,
and he said,
he's
I'm
become
fighting
famous.
Compelled speech in the legislation, and that if he didn't say certain things as a professor in a certain way, that he was risking his career. And obviously, there was a lot of issues that way. The same thing. And I've seen some people really describe it well with when they're articulating the issues between the Democrats and Republicans in the States. And it's somewhat the same here with the Liberals and the Conservatives, is that there's parts of diversity, DEI, right, that make sense. Mm-hmm. For example, you might be missing out on some really talented, smart people if you have biases against certain groups. So making sure that a company looks at these groups for the best and the brightest is a smart thing for a corporation. But requiring it and requiring ratios and having hiring quotas to make doesn't make sense, because the brightest and the best, it's a curve, right? So there's only going to be so many in each group that are going to be bright. Mm-hmm. So people hate Jordan Peterson, but I saw a clip where he was arguing this logic with somebody and saying that a company that wanted to have 50% male engineers and 50% female engineers would not have the best engineers by math because there's fewer female engineers. So that percentage is automatically lower. So if you're uplifting 50% of available jobs to females, you're not getting necessarily the best.
Right.
engineers.
But
if yes, there should be avenues for more females to be able to enter into engineering and to become engineers. That's a separate thing. But if you try to write it at the hiring stage, then you're putting yourself behind.
But if it's a company's choice, I see what Jordan Peterson's saying there. It's just the math of how many women are in engineering compared to men, and how that's changing, and it's going to take a few generations to get there, right? So, but if a private company wants to do that, then that's their right. If it's orchestrated or they're mandated to do that from a government, then it's like, whoa, now I don't have, the same freedom as a private business owner to do whatever I want. Yeah. So let me ask, because you're a journalist, is our free speech laws different in Canada than the United States? I'm assuming they are, but I don't know in what way.
There are some differences, and I wouldn't be able to articulate exactly what they are, but I know there's differences. For example, in America, there's a rule that they used to have that exempts, and I think they still do. Media companies have absolute sort of protection against being sued in certain circumstances for freedom of speech. But that's not the same in Canada. Media companies have to have a little bit less protection and a little bit more responsibility requirements as far as charter rights go, right?
Because it's the reason I ask is, when we say woke is two ways, I would say, and how it's being weaponized, right? Where I'm trying to think of a couple of examples, like if you're like even on the other side from right to left, they both weaponize it.
Oh yeah,
in how it's being used.
You're not woke. You're woke.
Yeah,
right? It's a 4-letter word.
Yeah,
but the original intent for wokeness is to be nice to people.
Right. So you're aware. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be aware. Be nice. Be sensitive. Be responsible for what you say, and know that it hurts others. That's woke. Now it's woke is described by people who think it's a bad thing, as you're a sheep following government dictations that are a liberal invention, and that you've been captured, right, in that movement.
But it's even, you saw it in the States when I think it was more Republicans leaning farther to the right. We're going after it was the president of Harvard, the president of Penn State, like all these presidents who I think they were all women, by the way, which is, incredible from a diversity standpoint and institutions like that. And then they were posing questions about hate speech. Or
that's because of the protests on the Palestinians and Jewish community.
They all ended up resigning. They all resigned, right? And it was like weaponizing that language against them, where on the other side it's just as powerful. And it's like it's a very interesting time we're in. Even you and I doing this about how our talk lands with different people, how this podcast will land with different people once we get into it a little bit more with Jocelyn, because Jocelyn is on video with us, so she's coming in via Zoom today.
Yeah, and it works out good. Like I say, the more we talk about these things, the better. And certainly, if people have opinions on the matter or think that there's a subject that needs to be covered that we haven't touched upon, you're welcome to send us an email to editor@northbayecho.ca, and we can include it in further podcasts. Today's guest is Jocelyn Green, the new and first Executive Director of North Bay Pride. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What's first on your agenda for this year? What do you have to do in the next few months?
To not rip out the rest of my hair. It's nice that it's new because it's a new position. It's a position that has been done in the past, and I mean, less. It's a lot of work. I have one other member. We're currently with Pride, and that's the president, Maddie Reed. Fantabulous person. Super, super great guy. We're rebuilding Pride. So rebuilding Pride and establishing the sponsors and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I feel that some sponsors, because of the what's the word I'm looking for? The tumultuousness of what's going on in the States and with the American companies, those sponsors may be by the wayside, so I have to seek more sponsorship. I know this time around I really, really, really am digging my heels in and focusing on anti-hate, anti-bullying, to kind of keep that conversation going. Because unfortunately, when you start saying certain things, all of a sudden it's gets a hand up. Nope, that's woke. And I'm let's have a conversation. So there's a lot in this journey. I'm going to be building an advisory committee as well. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. It's a little overwhelming, but it's an exciting venture to promote the safety and whatnot and the inclusivity of all marginalized groups, really. But of course, North Bay Pride focuses on the LGBTQI plus community. I'm still we're always open to our Indigenous families, people of color, such as myself, disabilities, that kind of thing. Everything goes.
Jocelyn, could you maybe back up just a little bit and explain about Pride itself? And so is this just a one-day event? You're a full-time person. Is it just you're working on one day? Tell us a little bit about this position, why a full-time position, and what Pride does all year.
So what we're doing all year, we're working on different. I would like to see, again, this is something that has to be approved by the board. I can't be crack the whip and be this is what we're doing. Sometimes I like to do that, but it's year round. It's communications. It's maintaining communications with the shareholders or anybody who's got any kind of interest in this and supporting us, that kind of thing. And idealistically, I would like to be able to give back to those, especially the higher tier sponsors. Whether it's a workshop or something as such. Creating programs for them to introduce the inclusivity and stuff like that and within their work environment, workplace. Yes, we do have a large Pride Week. Our Pride Week is usually the second week of September. And I was with Pride a couple of years ago myself. I was on the board of directors a couple of years ago, and I was the one that really pushed for that because we are a college/university city. And having new students in town and stuff like that, and Pride Month has already come and gone, I'm hey, I want these guys to know that there's a place for them to feel safe. And so we pushed off our Pride, and it was due to COVID and whatnot too. We pushed off our Pride to be in September. We've maintained that. So that's what we're maintaining. Hopefully gonna do some really fun things this year. But yeah, throughout the year, it's little shows, to let you know that we're here. Don't forget us. And as for the full-time aspect, it's writing the grants or seeking grants, seeking funding, whether it's with the shareholders, that kind of thing, communications, advertising, marketing, that kind of thing, and just making sure that the community knows that we're here. We have we've done in the past where we get together like once a week down at the waterfront, and like do a waterfront walk, just to know, like, like, hey, you're not alone. Because there are a lot of people out there that do feel alone.
How many people are members of the North Bay Pride, and who do you represent as far as that goes, numbers?
Well, so as in our community, like the community is actually quite large. Like within the northern areas, like that's including like Sturgeon Falls and Sudbury and whatnot as well, because they all come down. It's like it's a northern family. Having worked in the film industry a bit and whatnot, I've like rubbed shoulders with others that are in the film industry that would like come out to events and support the events, that kind of thing. I think the community in a whole is large, and the fact that like people want to feel that. I don't know how to describe it, but it's an energy when you're at like an event, like whether it's a show or there's just like it's a closeness, a connectivity, and it's just like you feel like you're safe, you belong. We've got the senior, like I think it's called Queer Pride. Senior Queer Pride, which is like representing the senior community. We've got the youth, which is out loud, and then you've got us, which encompasses everything else, and that includes like like whether you're lesbian, gay, transgender, the whole umbrella.
Could you help me with the umbrella? Because I actually don't know if I know what all the letters mean.
Oh, goddess. You're putting me on the spot. Basically, it's like it's about sexual identification, and not necessarily sexual identification, because it's like myself, I'm pan, which just means that I go with energy. You could be male or female, but it doesn't mean I'm bisexual. I don't look at the sex myself. Me, it's energy.
We did a project with Safe Spaces. It was a few years ago now. I think it might have been before COVID, and everything's based on COVID. When time, right? And even though we were involved in that project, it was at the final presentation of it, there was this 8 by 11.5 document page, right? And then on it, it had 2 columns of many of the different categories. And I had never heard of most of them, right? And it's like, it's complex.
It does get a little complex. I kind of like want to keep it simple. And like I said, like when we were first kind of talking about it, I want to focus more on having the conversation to kind of, a lot of I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are some people who are like anti-woke. They're like, this is all too woke and that kind of thing. And it's like, instead of like triggering that, I just want to have like the conversation like anti-bullying, anti-hate, like, can you accept people who they are?
It's interesting you say that though, Jocelyn. It's because I totally hear what you're saying. It's like that's what the conversation is important, because it's about safe spaces and people feeling welcome and accepted. But certain language is used on an ongoing basis. Then for me, that I don't know if I'm outside the categories or not. I'm not sure, but it's like all the letters are used and go, oh, what do all the letters mean? Like I just, but that's not what Pride's all about, right?
No, Pride originally is like a political movement. And I mean, like, we can go back to like the 80s where like we had like the AIDS epidemic and how they, like blamed it on homosexuality. And so there was like, a lot of fear and whatnot, and a lot of angst. And I mean, like, it's still there. I mean, like, it's still there, but now it's not as prevalent because now you've got like newer nuances. I want to say nuances. I don't know if that's the right term. Like the big one right now is transgender, and unfortunately, people are getting all huff and puff. They're like, and it's a lot of stuff is fabricated or is assumed. And it's like, instead of making the assumptions, ask the questions. I mean, you're asking the questions, which is good. But like many would like, just instantly shut down and be like, no, that's not right. And I'm like, yeah, but, and I kind of can appreciate like others' perspectives, like saying like they're saying it's a mental health issue, but I was like, what if you were like a different sex in your body, and like you had to live with that? I was like, would that not affect your mental health? Because I think it would. Like, I'm not going to say I think I know it would. So
yeah, you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's about having people involved, what's happening in the United States, and especially with brands being associated. I think a lot of companies want to be involved, want to be inclusive, want to, right? But I also think that some brands have used pride for their own benefit, right? And they've leaned into that, and then in some cases got bitten in one way or the other when you're not using it. Help me with the big words, Dave. Altruistically, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then there's. I think when you go into it that way, that's how I think you should approach it. But if you're going into it that it's going to increase your margins in this category, you might get bitten in another way. So I can see
donations so I can get a tax receipt kind of thing, that kind of thing. Like, they're not doing it for like out of the heart.
Right. So tell me why brands, I'll say brands, companies, organizations need to be involved with Pride in North Bay.
I feel that, like, aside from improving, I would improve productivity. It would improve mental health of the staff. Like, the staff. Like, I mean, like, if you ever walk into a place where, like, it's like, there's no discrimination, like, you're not going to be judged. You just be you. Like, people tend to shine brighter, right? I remember, like, the very first film set I worked, and it was a higher tier production, and it was just like immediately I was picking out cues on, like, okay, like, there's a lot of LGBT, like the insignias and stuff like that, and there's like a lot of people that are involved in that community who are in the LGBT community, and it was amazing. Like, I was like, I've never, like, now this is northern film. I don't know how it is down south. I've never worked on film down south, but I've never felt so much safety, even though you're with a diverse crew of people. Like, yeah, occasionally you have people. I had a lady nudge me the one day, like, do you know that there's, like, homosexuality on this show? And I'm like, well, the time, sure. I didn't know who I was. But, for the most part, it's like, it's beautiful. Like, and people being able to just be.
Is there any statistical information, Jocelyn, on, I think from a corporate standpoint, sure, of course, there's many people who are out, but there's probably a number of people who aren't. So I would think when you say about a brand or a corporation supporting something like this that provides a safe space within their own staff, it's not about so much the outward view, but the inward view, where there's a percentage of staff that would potentially fall into these categories that have never actually communicated that to anybody else on staff, but in actually supporting something like this, they're actually speaking to those people that feel they don't have a voice, have a safe place to work and thrive within their company. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. Now, to answer your question specifically, I would actually research that a little bit more. But, like, that is definitely a fair statement.
I thought over the last 30 years, we've come quite a ways as far as people accepting others' sexual orientation, for lack of a better word. Is it really that unsafe?
We did, unfortunately. And I mean, like, I don't want to go political, but unfortunately, when somebody was in their first term, that was when, and it's like, you know what, maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, like, how do you cure poison? Like, you have a snake bite or whatever, you have to get the poison out. So it's like, he's inspiring that poison, the hatred, the angst. But now, with our political environment or political climate today, it's getting downright scary. 100%. And I mean, even with our side and stuff like that, it is definitely scary. And it's kind of like,
Well, scary in what way, Jocelyn?
scary for people's safety. I really feel that there's a large divide. Like there's people again, like, oh, I'm done with this wokeness, mentality. And you know what? Like some of it just stems down to like literally like pronouns and not understanding how to process pronouns. And it's like, I get it. All of us that are like older, all of us that are in our 50s or above are kind of like, pronouns, what is this? I was like, oh, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, don't overthink it. Just be nice. But it's creating a divide, and it's it's also easy for, I don't want to, there's certain topics, it's going to be a hot topic. We're going to go there. Like with religions and stuff as well, it's like, this can't be. And it's not necessarily just Christianity. It could be like Muslim, it's like so many different aspects that are like, this can't be. But I'm like, but it is. So what do you do? And it's like, you can't stone a person in these days for their decisions. And I was like, yeah.
I guess
there's a lot of preconceived notions, and then the assumptions on top of that. And so what happens is it's just like a festering pile of misinformation. That's why I'm like, want to drive the focus, not to trigger the woke aspect. Just want to focus on the anti-hate, anti-bullying, anti-discrimination, and then let's talk. And some people will reach, some people I won't.
Sports aren't just what we do, they're who we are. Source for Sports North Bay is your advocate, your local support system, and your biggest fan. 1321 Fisher Street has grown from a place where knowledgeable experts can help you find exactly the gear you need, to the hotbed of team uniforms, apparel and fanwear, to a community stronghold for all the things that truly matter to you and your family's sports journey. We love helping you find your first pair of skates, as much as we relish supporting local leagues, teams, and athletes. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
Well, I know some people that are very happy to say that they're anti-woke. They don't like compelled speech. They don't feel that they should have to do anything other than smile and nod and not and let people be. So they don't believe that the pronouns thing was right to require, and it was a signal that they were going to be forced to do something other than what they thought or were ready to do, right? And the trans sort of movement has gone through quite a cycle, evolution. Like in England, they were 100% into it, and then they realized that they didn't go about it the right way. Where there's people that there seemed to be a divide between the gay community and the trans community, because a lot of people who think they're trans eventually realize they're gay instead, and it wasn't that. So people were worried about their children. So it was very uptight things. So now's the backlash. Now you got a Trump who's just making hay over it and having fun, building up that solid base of a lot of ignorance, really. But here in North Bay, I don't see a lot of that. I don't see it unsafe for people that are gay or have a different sexual orientation than what used to be called normal, right? It seems like there's a lot of overlap with the communities. That there's very many safe spaces. Is it different here?
It's, you know what? I love this city. That's why I'm still here. I've moved around a lot in my life, and I've faced discrimination firsthand. Lord love him. I love this city. However, no, there's definitely still discrimination towards like various communities and stuff, and it's kind of it saddens me because it's like it shouldn't matter, like what this person's doing over here shouldn't matter. But then it's like, but the kid. And I'm like, yeah, but if you watch music videos recently, I'm like, or listen to some of these songs recently, I mean, I listen to some of these songs, and I'll be bebopping away, and all of a sudden, 12-year-old girls listen to this. Oh my God, do they even know what that song is about? It's little things like that. But there was an incident that happened, 2022, I want to say it was in 2022, in the summer. And it was somebody on, I don't want to name the account because they're like absolutely hateful, and they've since like, they've amassed like triple the amount. There was only 1.5 million followers at the time. But they're like one of those accounts that was on Twitter back in the day that would like look for like different events and be like, save the children. And that became like a huge issue in our city because they targeted the youth group. They targeted like the adults that like were like working with the youth group. They targeted the sponsors, our local businesses. They like it was horrible, and it was a mass. Like in like a matter of like 6 hours, they received over 1,000 messages, and I was just like, it was insane. And it was like because of a Twitter account, and it's just like, and we're naming people like local, but now you're spurring it, you know what I mean? Like you're feeding that hate, you're fanning that fire, and that's not good. And there are some people, unfortunately, that might be unstable that may want to act on it, and that's where like, no, let's have a conversation.
Oh, definitely. The more we talk, the better.
Yeah, like you're gonna get bad apples in every group, like whether it's like a marginalized group or not, you're gonna get a bad apple everywhere. Like, people would look at me back in the day and they'd be like, you're black. Like when I lived in Burke Falls of all places, it's like as soon as I walk in the store, it's like they watch me like a hawk because I'm black. They're like, she's got skill. This is an automatic assumption. I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, but that's my life. But I mean, like, you can't paint, because of one individual or one instance that happened with a specific group. You can't paint the entire group with the same brush. There are so many beautiful, loving people out there. I'm like, I'm blessed that I've met these people. Like, these people lift my heart. And I'm pretty cold. There's some days I'm pretty bloody cold.
I think one of the, what would you call a hot button issue is children, right? And regardless of the trans stuff and other things, as far as what Pride would be trying to help and protect, the overt sexualization of children through the industries and the access through Pornhub and all those other things makes a lot of people worried. And like, children are becoming sexually mature-ish earlier, right? And that scares people. So I think it was the sort of social engineering of trying to introduce pronouns, trying to be a little bit more woke to other people's sensitivities and feelings. At the same time, people are watching their children become overtly sexualized. And I think that also triggered people to be very wary and worried about I think the incident you're talking about is when they were doing a trans reading at the library of some sort, or right?
Drag show, but it was a closed drag show just for the kids.
Yeah, I know, but just that is not only is it people worried about their kids being involved with that, they're worried about what their kids are growing up in, right? So some of it was just ignorance and fear, but others, of course, were just blatantly against anybody doing different than they are, right? So it's pretty complex.
Well, it's an interesting topic, Dave, because I was sitting thinking about that, you know, we start off this conversation about, you know, being accepted in a safe space and that. I think today, and I would include myself, sometimes I'm afraid to ask a question, not to look ignorant, but if I ask that question, does that mean I'm hating? And so there might be questions about, so I see you reacting, Jocelyn. I'd like to.
Oh, I know that, like, I know people are hesitant. I have people that they'll be like, I have a question. I am down. I am totally down to, like, talk. I'd rather smooth the ridges. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, no, and you do get it, and you will. I've seen it with younger generations in particular that are, like, still adapting kind of thing, that, like, if they're misgendered or whatever, they may snap. And it's like, so there's a learning curve for everybody involved. Like, you know, like, hey, like, how would you communicate if you're like, you know, like, there's a girl over there, I'm not a girl. You know, like, you don't reply like that. You know, like, let's have a conversation. Or not. But
also what Dave was saying about, you know, I think is some of the I don't know, you were articulating it really well. I was enjoying your line of question there, Dave, about the introduction of, can you help me with the language here? Like the introduction of sexualization into the curriculum, maybe when some people feel it shouldn't be there at that point.
Yeah.
Is that?
There's some people that just feel that educating young people about sexual orientations and options and different types of people opens up something too early in their psychic, and that they're worried that they'll be, drawn into it when they wouldn't naturally be that way.
I would challenge that, and I actually, like, I remember, I believe it was Kathleen Wynne, when she was premier, that introduced a different, like my brain's not working, like sex ed. But it was catered to the age groups. And so people were like parents were like automatically like, my kids are going to learn about this kind of sex. And it's like, not at that age. No, it's catered to, and it was structured to the age groups and stuff. Now, I approved of this back then because, like, I was like, you know, again, it's about safety. It's about, you know, knowing what's right. Like, I've had so many heated debates over that. I mean, I know what you're saying as well. I get what you're saying as well. However, let kids be kids. I mean, like, I'm not about to say, okay, like, you know, this is what's going to happen. I'm like, no, let kids be kids, absolutely. But at the same time, let them explore their feelings. Let them explore who they are. Like, they're the ones who need to figure it out. The Toronto District School Board has, like, a great program going and, like, you know, and supporting kids in the safe spaces and stuff like that. And I know that parents will disagree with this. Some parents will disagree with us, and the fact that, like, you know, they should know. But in the same sense, if they know because of their upbringing, that may make their space at home not safe. So that's where, like, I support the school systems. The school systems doing, like, the sex ed, even though that was then repealed or whatever, when Kathleen Wynne left, I was kind of sad because, again, you're like, the children are learning what's right, what's wrong. It's like, you know, like, it's preventing, like, sexual abuse with adults, with people they trusted. Like, they're like, I trust this person, you know, so therefore they're a safe person, when in fact they're not. And you got to think too, like, when kids are born, they're not born to hate. They're not born to judge. They're not born to be bullies. They learn these things. So having an educational system where it's like, hey, this is out there. It may not be for you, but this is okay. Makes that safer for the kids, and that's where my angle would be with that.
Yeah, I guess there's different ways of looking at how to prepare a young person to handle what's in front of them, right? And it's a tough thing. Some would say that just educating and raising children to be tolerant of others, no matter what, covers it. The no matter what doesn't have to be gone into as far as explicit detail, but it may also make them there's pros and cons, and if it's handled correctly and it's introduced in the curriculum at a right age that people have a comfort level with. I think some of the introductions, even when I looked at them, I could see why some parents were concerned about it because they had different outlooks, and they're part of a public system they had no control over, and they couldn't afford to go to a private school that catered to their religious stipulations, right? Which have to be respected and tolerant of that because that's what their religions are. So it's a really tough thing. I think the overt sexualization period of all people is making a lot of people uncomfortable because it's seeing what it produces. You have the OnlyFans situation where you have people making millions, but selling their souls and spirits to it, right? And it's just sad to see. I wouldn't want if I had a daughter, doing that ever. Just because I don't think that's a healthy thing for your self-esteem in the long run. I personally, I'm not comfortable in almost any environment where there's overt sexualization. Whether it's gay or heterosexual, like people that project and use their sexual identity as the main banner of themselves, I think it puts me on guard, no matter what. Like if it's a macho homophobic guy, I'm not comfortable with those people. I'm not comfortable with people that are always sexualized because it's not something that makes me comfortable. So it's kind of weird. There's so many different pockets of people out there. Like you might see me in a crowd of gay people not very comfortable, but I'm not very comfortable in a lot of different crowds. I'm a wallflower at every bar I go to, right? It's what'd you say, Joss?
I'm not comfortable in any crowds. I don't like going out at all. It's weird. I like being on stage, but then stage is like a barrier for me.
Comedy is a funny thing. When you did comedy, and you're probably going to do it again in the future, I'm hoping. Did you joke about sexual orientation?
That's not my stick. But I'm very feminine. When people look at me, I'm very feminine, and how I dress very feminine. But in actuality, I'm very much a tomboy. So I'm not really comfortable with the whole sexuality aspect, and that's probably why I've stayed single for a bazillion bloody years. My stick was the fact that I'm a person of color that's lived in a predominantly white environment. I've ran with that a few times, and so I'm like, yep, I'll stick with it because that's who I am.
So like I was telling you earlier, I'm thinking about having a bit of a comedy contest and a series going on. And I thought about having one of the themes for the contest nights for qualifying would be about sexual orientation. Just to have people dance on that line and see if they can come up with something funny that's not disrespectful at the same time. And that's always the challenge, right?
No, it's true, but then there's also people in the community that are also comics, so it could be a really, really fun endeavor.
Yeah.
And again, keep that conversation going, without, I know, it's so touchy, it's kind of crazy, if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get canceled, that kind of thing, but at the same time, no, if you do it out of respect, and you do it, I think it'd be kind of interesting.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with us as far as North Bay Pride goes and its endeavors and goals?
Well, I need sponsors.
You need sponsors, yeah? Sponsors for the Pride Week, is it that? Or sponsor for...
Yeah. So, sponsors for various events and stuff like that. Our AGM is the end of April, and hopefully by then I'll have a little bit more. I need bodies as well. We're rebuilding.
What date is your AGM?
What date is it? I just want to say it's the last week of April. I don't have a specific date.
And if somebody wants to get involved with North Bay Pride, how do they get in contact with you?
They can reach us on like Facebook, North Bay Pride page, and just message us through there. That's probably the easiest way. Like we do have a spiritnorthbaypride@gmail.com as well is the email, but the easiest way would be probably through Facebook or Instagram. Another one I'm looking at doing is creating a Substack so that, if I have people that are writers and stuff like that, or they want to share content, have like content and do specific things. And then if I want to like do not like OnlyFans, but to have like, more in-depth content, and this is like more for educational purposes, that kind of thing. That's my goal. I'd like to like taste that avenue. And maybe I'll do a podcast. I don't know. I'll talk to people that are professionals at this.
I wanted to ask you, this just popped into memory here. Now, this is hearsay, but I'm wondering if we could just talk about it for a second. Someone had told, was it a Pride event where there was music and everything? I think Sam was organizing something, right? What was that event? Was it a Pride event? Where I'm going with it. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there was like the two events. I think that was in 2022. There was two, or 2023. There was two events, and like Pride had an event, and then Sam had his. Oh my goodness, it
was a music event, right? And so they combined resources. So here's my thing. I heard and again, this is hearsay, so please correct me if I'm wrong. And it maybe goes back to when sometimes maybe someone my age feels like boundaries are being pushed, right, in a community event. And I was told that there was a booth that was selling, and it was very well promoted. How do I put it? Sexual aids?
Devices.
Devices.
Yeah.
So there's all these things. So I'm bringing my family down, and there's a bunch of dildos and stuff hanging up. And it just seemed a little off to me. And again, I could be totally wrong, but I'm like, but I think there was a clash between the organizers where Pride or whoever was saying, no, this needs to be part of it. This has to be part of it. Whoever the person was, I don't know who the person was. This has to be part of it. But I'm like, from a community point of view, I don't have anything wrong with that. Like, but it's like, you're in the park, so how do we, I don't know, is Pride different now? Or if I'm going to have Pride involved in my community event, are you going to have a bunch of dildos hanging up around?
Idealistically, I would probably, if I were to do it myself, because you know what, we're going to promote safe sex and whatnot too. I would put it, like, say, like in a beer garden where kids don't have access to, like if it's an outdoor event, that kind of thing. I would keep it where it wouldn't be accessible to little eyes. But then it's still like a sponsor or whatever, they're able to attend. You're just not going to have like little eyes going, Mom, what's that?
Yeah. I think that's what was going down.
Well, I'll add one more layer to this just to make it a little saltier. That there was a gentleman involved with Pride for a while that was very divisive, and nobody I know wanted to do anything with him. Is he still involved? I don't want to name.
No, it's
Pardon me?
Just Maddie and my right now. It's just Maddie and I.
Okay, so it's a new Pride.
I do. So yes, it is a new Pride. I know who you're talking about, and you know what? I think he's a great person. However. There's sometimes you get caught up in your own personal angst, and I can see like that rubbing people the wrong way. I don't know. Like people like say to me, like I'm really grounded. I mean, like people they generally will not see me lose my shiznit, whether it's online or in person. I have once. I'm not gonna lie. I have lost my shiznit to a particular person that was like targeting children, like we're protecting you, blah blah blah, and instead attacked a child, like verbally attacked a child. When I caught wind of it, I saw red. I mean, I didn't get physical or anything like that, but like I roared. I don't yell in public.
I actually picked up when you were saying, Jocelyn, about rebuilding. That's when I picked up as soon as you said rebuilding, I went, it all started clicking for me. So I think it's important to discuss that maybe how things were done, or like a couple of years ago, they might be done a little bit differently now, which might open up the opportunity for other sponsors to be involved. So that, I'm sure there's probably a number of sponsors that don't want to be part of the dildo booth. I think.
Again, I know exactly who Dave is pertaining to. And I mean, personally, I think they're a great individual. But again, not everybody likes me. But I'm not as vocal. I tend to curb my word, and I'm very good with my words, I think.
Well, I would say that it's probably a really good time to have somebody with a less divisive and more team building sort of approach to it, because there is this backlash. People feel empowered to stand their ground on where they feel things are. And I would never be involved with a pride parade because it wasn't a family parade as far as I was concerned, because it had overt sexualization involved. It had people that were dressed for the night, had adult stuff, not for children. And that's a line I don't like parades to begin with. I have stopped going to all of them, but I wouldn't be involved with it just for that reason. I draw a line on what's adult and what's child family oriented. So I don't know whether or not that who cares?
Drag performance, I would say hopefully when it comes to doing the parades and stuff, I don't want to be honestly, the Toronto parade would be, I think, an amazing experience that would give me the highest anxiety in the world. That's way too many people. I'd watch it from a skyscraper. I'd be I wouldn't be in it. But I mean, idealistically, if it's all ages, I was drag performers can still dress as drag, but just, tone down, the fake the revealing. You know what I mean?
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't think you don't have any problem with that. It's more of
it's just a sexualization, and it's I don't know why. I've turned into a bit of a prude, I guess, maybe. But I just knowing how I feel and what I've seen, it's just okay, well, I respect everybody to have their own lives, and I don't want to be. I was raised in a small town of homophobic people, right? So I went through all those processes of maturing and as I went, but this is where I've gotten.
But would you say though, Dave, today, if you go to a pop concert, with some of the most popular, consumed pop
do I
icons
look like
out
a
there.
Swiftie?
No, what I'm saying is that same sexualization, has that not also arrived there? And much younger people that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not my thing.
Well, sorry, say again, Jocelyn?
I was going to say, kids generally don't. Even when I was a kid, I loved music, and it wasn't until I was older that I was like, that's what that was about? And nowadays, I still listen to, a lot of, I listen to, more remixes and stuff, but I still listen to, say, Lady Gaga and stuff, and I'm like, man, her and Madonna, and I've listened to Madonna for, a hot minute. Some of the stuff they've come out with, I'm just like, did she write a song about that?
Well, I think Madonna absolutely pushed boundaries, right? In the 80s and 90s. And wow, really, when we look back now to what we see now, it's not really, but at the time, it was crazy what she was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now, the new generation of music is where it's going to make us the ones that are parents or grandparents going, oh,
yeah.
My hair go white.
So as we bring this to a close, when is Pride Week, Jocelyn?
So we're looking at September. Hold on, it's on my calendar. I want to say it's the second week of September. I want to say it's between the 6th and 10th. I'm hoping to have events for at least 4 days, and so it'd be the Wednesday would usually be the Pride flag raising. Even though we try to do a Pride flag raising in Pride Month as well. But usually it's a Pride flag raising. If there's a march or a parade, it would be like on the Wednesday. The Thursday night would be like maybe like a local community event. Hopefully, idealistically, I would like to also do like another drag show competition, because those are fun. Bring some of the like famous drag show performers to do like the judging and stuff like that. And then hopefully a show at the Capitol Center. I like the Capitol Center. I love the crew.
Agreed.
I'm being snobby, but I do love the crew at the Capitol Center. Those guys are awesome.
I agree. And how can people reach you if they want to find more information about getting involved, which includes sponsorship and volunteerism?
Well, northbaypride.ca is the webpage, and then North Bay Pride on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Jocelyn Green, the first executive director, is that right? Of North Bay Pride. Congratulations on your position. We wish you great success.
Yeah, thanks again, Jocelyn. I appreciate you taking part in the interview. And I know there's some of these topics are uncomfortable to talk about, but like you say, the more we talk about them, the better.
No, and the easier it gets. Absolutely.
Right on. Well, maybe we'll have you for another interview sometime, and we'll tackle some of the issues that are hot button. Right?
Sounds great.
That's another Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. Thanks for joining us.